English, the most influential language in the 21st century. It is the global language that connects people from different religions, cultures, accents, and of course, countries. Mostly due to a combination of historical facts that played a huge role in the past few hundred years. English became the language of business, politics, and of course, communication in general. In this video, we're going to find out what those facts are and the whole history behind this whole mess. So, let's find out. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment something that caught your attention. Now let's go straight to the point. Make sure to fasten your seatbelt. English is the first language of a lot of countries. You can get started in America and go all the way down to Australia. It belongs to the Germanic language family, alongside some other countries. We can name Austria, Belgium, Denmark. Anyway, you got the idea. But the funny thing is that nearly 60% of English vocabulary comes from either Latin or French. So does that mean that English is more Latin than Germanic? Let's find out. The vast majority of European languages, and some from Asia, can be traced back to a single language, called Proto-Indo-European, that gives life to the language families that we speak today. We can give some examples, such as the Romance languages, a family group originated by Vulgar Latin, including Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, and many other more. And of course, we can't forget about the Slavic languages, which compose around 40% of Europe's population. These people were often associated with slaves in the past, due to the captivity practiced by Vikings, Mongols, and Muslims. In tracing back, the word Slav derives from the Latin sclavus, which means a personal slave. But letting all of this aside, the Slavic languages are composed by Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, and so many others. Both languages family groups share a common ancestor, which is the Proto-Indo-European. But how can it be that a language composed with nearly 60% of both Romance and Latin vocabulary be considered a Germanic language? Well, English is not descendant from German, and I really need you to pay attention to this part right now. English is more related to German, sharing the same branch of the Germanic languages. We can compare their relationship as Portuguese and Spanish native speakers to a small level, mainly in the written German, containing cognates that you can see in the following examples. And I'm sorry for my German pronunciation, okay? Apple, Apfel. Photo, Foto. House, House. Milk, Milch. Friend, Freund. You see the graphic similitudes? Both languages are really close, especially when we compare words and pronunciation. The story of English is divided in 3 periods of time. And of course, we are going to start with the oldest one, Anglo-Saxon, also known as Old English. No pun intended. It originated from the West Germanic dialects of the Angles. That's why we call one of the countries from the United Kingdom England, meaning the land of the Angles. In our current timeline, the Saxons and other tribes are invading and occupying England, spreading their language and culture along with the people that live in that region. Departing a little bit from these years, let's talk about the Old Norse, brought by no other than the famous Vikings. This group of Scandinavian explorers is pictured in many movies and TV shows. Vikings brought many words that enter the English lexicon, words that we currently speak nowadays, such as sky, for example, that replaced the Old English word Heophon. Another one that may get your attention is the word window, which literally means wind eye. Interesting, huh? And here's a special one. Thursday. For those of you who don't know, the days of the week make reference to the Norse mythology gods. Thursday is the day of Thor, the god of thunder, lightning storms, the sky, agriculture. Middle English. This period was marked by the Norman conquests of 1066. We began this period of time with an intense battle. William the Conqueror defeated King Herod in the Battle of Hastings. Along with this, William brought the Old Norman, also called Old Norman French. This language became the fancy language of the region, being used in court, elite, administration, and law fields. Latin was basically the language of the church, and the lower part of society continued to speak English. Remember I told you earlier that French made a significant part of the English vocabulary nowadays? These French words began to be used here. And here are some good examples of French words that we use into today. Jury, justice, court, castle, council, duke, government. I could easily spend the whole day just talking about it, but apart from the introduction of new words, changes to grammar and syntax were made, like the use of new preposition and auxiliary verbs. To be or not to be, that is the question. It is almost impossible to talk about this period of time without talking about William Shakespeare's plays. His plays were written in the early modern English, between 1560 and 1613, creating literature works and changing the whole course of the English language. Did you know that William Shakespeare created over 1,700 words and expressions that we use until today? Well, here are some examples. All that glitter is not gold. Meaning that the attractive external appearance of something is not a reliable indicator of its true nature. It's Greek to me, meaning a person cannot understand the nature of the message and often associated with a foreign language. An important event that marked the modern English was the Renaissance, that began in Italy in the 14th century. People who supported this movement tried to live in the classic Greece and Rome of the ancient times, which brought a lot of Latin words to English, such as encyclopedia, philosophy, and drama. With the invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg, the production of books was facilitated, which turned literature into a more accessible and less expensive hobby. Good news to our fellow William Shakespeare, isn't it? And let's not forget about the King James Bible, published in 1611. With its accessibility, it impacted the whole English language, with many expressions that derive from this book that we use into the current times. For example, let that be light from Genesis. Or this quote that translated the words of Jesus in the book of Matthew. New wine in old bottles. Neither do a man put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. The language of the Anglo-Saxon expanded itself, influenced by many other foreign languages. Nowadays, English is the current lingua franca of the planet Earth, spoken by over 1.4 billion people worldwide. Long story short, English has passed for many changes throughout history and evolved into this language that we know of nowadays. That was the message I wanted to deliver to you guys. If you really like this video, make sure to comment something that caught your attention. Like and subscribe if you learn anything new. Bye bye.